Okay, what's up, 50 folders? So today we're going to be talking with Daniel Lieb, who is the founder of Sandviper. Sandviper is a new athletic wear brand that was inspired by the need to provide beach and sand athletes with a shoe that provides a completely sand-free experience. So David's a sole founder, and he's been hustling, and he's bootstrapped himself till today. Now he wants to raise an angel round of about $100,000 to take things to the next level. So in this session, you're going to hear about David's story to date and learn about how to raise an angel round. All right, let's do this.
Ask Alex. Ask Alex. Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know, now you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, cool. So David, tell me about your startup.
Awesome. So Sandviper was an idea that I had back in 2015. Quickly, I played football, ran track in college, and so I would work out in the sand, and found that there was no shoe designed to keep the sand out of your shoe while you train.
Yeah.
I said to myself, why haven't these major brands made something like this? I mean, it's just such an intuitive idea, but they hadn't done it. I guess probably because the market isn't that big. So they thought maybe the market isn't big enough, so it wasn't worth kind of the resources that would be needed to do it. But I'm like, they're so big, so they can still do it. Either way, I'm like, you know what? Let me do it myself. So I came up with the idea of making a shoe that was designed to be basically impervious to the sand that you can train in, and those sand gets in. Because as an athlete, once the sand gets in the shoe, it's a problem. You create chafing in the toes, blistering, and as an athlete, your feet are everything. So you just can't have that. So I said, why don't I just make this and build a company around it? So I did that. So I built this shoe out. A couple iterations later, had a shoe that I liked, went to China, found a manufacturer, did a production run, and just started peddling my product on Instagram specifically, and through some local stores as well. But the whole idea is that whole sand-focused, that niche is what's giving us that differentiating kind of idea that other brands don't have. A lot of brands are kind of copycatting Nike, Adidas, kind of coming up with the same designs, but there's nothing unique about them. It's like a Nike, or it's like Adidas NMD or Nike Air Max. It looks the same. What's different about it, other than the fact that you don't have a logo on it that has a Nike symbol on it? So our shoes have a kind of a differentiating factor in the sense that the sand training piece is kind of making us feel, or not feel, but making us unique, or giving us kind of a unique element to our brand that is an identifier as a, something that kind of people can say, okay, that as an identity for that brand, they are the sand people. Sandviper, hence our name, Sandviper. So every time you hear our name, it coincides with that unique element to us. So people always think of us as a sand shoe. So it'll give us kind of a unique kind of like element of memory, if you will. And then from there, we're going to branch out into every other product type, the baseball, basketball, football. We'll become a full-fledged footwear apparel company. But as we start out, that niche of the sand gives us that kind of unique angle or element that kind of lets us kind of burrow our way into the back door of the market, if you will, without kind of really being noticed or being kind of lost in the shuffle of all the other brands that are kind of trying to do the same thing the other brands are doing, which is making just another sneaker. So this is kind of a unique angle, which we're parlaying hopefully into a large company. I'll give you kind of an analogy. Under Armour back in the night, I'm 43, so Under Armour back in the night, I played football back then. When they came out, it was an undershirt. It was just a simple undershirt. That's all it was. You put it on your equipment, and that was it. So every football player started wearing that shirt, and they parlayed that product into what they are now, which is a monster full-fledged, full product set footwear apparel company that competes with Nike and Adidas. So that gives me confidence that there could be another brand that has kind of a unique product to start with, and then kind of branches that out through creative branding, creative marketing, and creating a whole product set that gets absorbed into the marketplace. And the marketplace is in the billions of dollars. And so there's definitely market share attainable for another player that can come in and be successful with their branding, with their approach, with their whole messaging, and their value proposition that we're going to have, and come in and capture some market share. So I believe that there will be another major brand. I say it, Nike came out in the 70s, Adidas came out in the 40s, Under Armour in the 90s. There's three major brands, those three. There's Puma, ASICS, they're a little smaller, but the major players, at least here in the States and even abroad, Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. The market is so big that there will be another major brand that comes to market at some point. It just has to happen. And so again, Under Armour was the last one in the 90s. It's been 25 plus years since that happened. We think that Sandviper can be that brand that can come to market with a really robust, unique kind of approach to what we're doing, and then also having kind of the modern kind of logoing and branding that we have with our logo that kind of is catchy, it's edgy, it's modern, it kind of tickles the fancy of the market in a way that kind of lets us kind of really create some momentum, which we have, and continue to build on that momentum with cool products and whatnot.
I'm guessing those boxes are shoes behind you.
Yes.
Do you want to show us one?
As most founders would show, we have inventory in the house on top of it in our warehouse. So yes, it's all
Can
about.
I see a shoe?
Yeah. What's
Do
that?
you have a shoe? Do you have a shoe?
Yeah. Can I just walk?
Yeah, why not?
So I have two right here. So this is the Orsini. You can see that. So it's all neoprene. Okay, this is the whole shoe is rubber based. Everything about the shoe is rubber, so you can get it wet, get it dirty in the sand, wash it off, and it's clean as a whistle. Inside, everything's rubber based, so nothing's going to absorb into the shoe to create kind of that moisture issue. It's all going to be dried by the sun, what have you. So it's all neoprene, slides down like a sock. This in front is actually a chrome tag, kind of our unique kind of element to our design of the shoe. You can kind of see it there. There's our logo. It's laser ingrained into the top. No other shoe has that look. It's kind of our unique look, that kind of logo tag as we call it. And the back's got some we call TPU, which is plastic, but it looks like it's metal. Just give it some accent, some flavor to the shoe, and the bottom of the sole looks like that. That's the white one. Here is our black colorway. And notice the strap in the back. So the strap in the back, so the shoe really can be worn by everyday people for lifestyle use, but also as athletes, NFL players wear our shoe and train in it. And so this strap in the back serves a purpose. So it locks the heel down into the shoe, because as an athlete, you can't have any movement with your shoe when you run. So this strap serves to lock down your heel so that your foot stays supplanted into the shoe. So when you're doing all your athletic movements, you're good to go. So this is one with the strap. This one, as you can see, does not have the strap. So there's both styles, more lifestyle, more athletic use, and that's pretty much it. So we have other styles. This is kind of our newest style that we have right now that we have marketing into Instagram as we speak and selling online, and also at Macy's as of right now. So that's one of our most recent products that we've launched. We'll have more products coming out soon, but everything's going great. Macy's has been a great addition to us as far as getting exposure through a major retailer in the States. And I've just added a huge Instagram influencer team of about 15 people. We're going to add more that are going to give us more reach to our main platform, which is Instagram. Excuse me. And so that's going to continue to give us momentum and branding and awareness throughout our marketplace and so forth.
So what stage are you at right now?
Look, I'm really at a seed stage still. I mean, quite frankly, when I say it's the company is me. I am the company at this point. I have just hired literally 2 guys through Instagram who are Instagram influencers in their respective areas, LA and here in my place, my area in Miami. They have now kind of brought in this fleet of Instagram influencers that's creating great momentum for us. But prior to that, it was just me. So everything that's happened to this point has pretty much been a branding focused initiative. We just now started pushing sales because, as you know, it's hard when no one knows who you really are to try and sell, especially in the footwear apparel, because you have Nike, Adidas. There's so many major brands out there that to really sell your product, you have to kind of have some awareness as to who you are and some legitimacy as to who you are. So we've had NFL players wear our stuff. We've had UFC fighters. I've done all that. I've done all that with the athletes to legitimize who we are, to create some momentum as far as being substantiated in the marketplace, which we've done. So now people think of us as a substantial. Macy's has helped with that. So now we have that kind of behind us. So the branding is kind of stronger now. So now it's time to go to market and sell. So now these Instagram influencers are the ones that touch our customer base directly. So their pages are followed by people that buy sneakers from Nike, Adidas, and whoever else. So when they see that our Instagram influencers are peddling our stuff, meaning promoting our stuff on their respective pages, and their followers are seeing this, they go, wait a second, I've seen that shoe at Macy's, or I saw that shoe over here, over there, but now you're wearing it. Now you're showing on your page. It makes them feel that much more confident. This is a legitimate brand, and it's a nice shoe. It's kind of like, I use the analogy of like movies and song. When you see a movie for the first time, you may not like it, or a song, but you hear the song 50, 60 times, and that song isn't that bad. That song's pretty good, actually. So it's kind of the same thing with products, especially shoes. You see it for the first time, like, yeah, you know what, it's okay, but you see it like 20 times, you see people wearing it on foot, and you see people wearing it to train in, and you're like, you know what, that shoe's pretty nice. I think I may want to buy that shoe. And that's kind of the psychology of how the sales, the purchasing psychology kind of works in the shoe game. So getting these people, when I say these people, I mean these Instagram influencers, to promote our stuff on their pages, it's a great value add for us, because it helps us, again, reach our target audience directly in a legitimate way, legitimizes us even more, because these are people they follow and they trust. So they're following these people to get their content on new shoes, And then they see us on the page, like, wait a minute, this must be legitimate. Because these guys that promote stuff on their page only do legitimate stuff. So it just gives us more legitimacy and more, you know what I mean? Yeah,
So what are the key challenges you're really facing right now?
Capital. That's the biggest thing. So besides capital, it's really more just about getting the right product to market. And that's something that I have done recently. I've contracted with a company that does predictive analytics. So what they do is they contract with Under Armour, Adidas, Nike. So what they do is they have kind of this algorithm. They have this kind of pool of participants that you put your shoe into the universe with them, and they provide kind of there's a cool grading system. They look at your shoe from different angles, different perspectives, and you get all these thousands of participants. They come back and they go through a little check mark process, and you get a grade. So let's say I have 3 different styles that I want to make, and I put it on their algorithm, and it comes back, okay, style A or style 1 is rated a B, style 2 is rated a C, style D is rated a B plus. So I can kind of see based on their responses. I may think number 1 is the best to me, but actually number 3 is the one that's most well received by that kind of focus group. It feels kind of a focus group, a little more detailed than focus group. And so I'm utilizing that tool now, which is at the highest level being used. So it's really important for me to kind of be not just guess on the next product. I have to make sure that, it's like kind of the MVP, the minimum viable product kind of concept, the whole kind of thing of kind of running it through your customer base before you build it. It's kind of similar kind of methodology. I'm going out to market, showing them my stuff, letting them touch it, feel it, and kind of seeing, okay, which one really is the one that they think is the most attractive from the pricing standpoint, from design standpoint, from functionality standpoint, from all the different angles. And then from there, kind of getting a grade for each style and seeing which one really is going to have the best chance of success. And so I have a bunch of designs now that I have on my, on my drawing board that I'm going to put through that algorithm very shortly and kind of see which ones come back with the best grades. Then from there, I want to go to my manufacturers and actually have the shoe design. But there's kind of a funding gap. So I have, as of today, I funded everything myself. Every single penny into this company has been through me. There's been no other outside investment. But I'm at a point now where we have enough traction, I think, with our branding. And now we have Instagram influencers kind of really pushing out our stuff into a much broader audience. And that, by the way, can grow. I can get another 15, 20 influencers if I want to. I just don't have the capacity to kind of carry them all. But I can get more when I have the means to do that. And I think that we're right on point as far as getting the next product to market. Because as you know, most product companies, think about Apple. When Apple 1 came out, it wasn't like a smashing success. It took a little time for Apple to kind of iterate. I think Apple 2 or the Macintosh, or one of those was the one that kind of blew up. The point I'm making is that with product-based companies, usually the first iteration is not the one that kind of takes off. Sometimes it happens. You usually have to have a couple iterations of your product before it kind of like gets accepted and kind of gets absorbed into the market in a big way. So I'm thinking the next 1 or 2 iterations of our shoes will do that. Then we can kind of really start seeing some robust sales and kind of really creating a real sales channel, sales funnel that we're trying to create. And so that is going to require capital. So I'm actually right now talking to investors and actively looking to raise some seed capital, some smaller seed capital to get us to that bridge of putting together that first or second iteration of product. And then once that happens, we have real sales, and I have the real sales traction behind my branding success. I can then attract a larger, maybe VC or a larger investor to put in the real dollars to really build out the company in a really more robust way.
So how much do you want to raise?
Right now, 75 to 100.
Okay,
75 to
so
100.
Aims around. Okay.
Exactly, correct. That's exactly right. An angel, a seed investment, angel round, correct, exactly.
And so you haven't raised before, right?
No, I have not.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to know basically how to do an angel round?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be fantastic.
So 100K is totally doable. It doesn't matter who you are. If you work hard enough, you can always make it happen. I've seen people spend 18 months trying to get a round done, and they'll eventually get there somehow.
Okay.
If you work hard enough, you can make it happen. Like for some, it happens overnight. It's easy, right? But for most, it's not. It's a slog. So, you should be able to get it easily done within 6 months, or there's sort of a problem. But if you work hard enough, there is money somewhere that will give it to you. So
I believe that.
That's the thing you need to believe. And that's the core belief is that you can get it done if you work hard enough and you don't give up. You can also make the process easier for yourself, right?
Right.
The easiest way to be a fundable company is to be a fundable company, which I know is stating the obvious, but you just really need to think of like, what do I need to be fundable? If
Right.
put yourself in the perspective as an investor, why would you give you money, right?
Right.
And,
Yes.
and there's no training course to be an investor. You just have to be really rich or have someone else's give you money. And so congratulations, you're now a VC or whatever, or an angel.
Right.
Anyone can be. So you can think for yourself, like, why, if you can get out of yourself, like, what would I want to see in order, if I was an investor, to invest in this company, Sandviper, right? And so if you find yourself having questions, you can just have a multiple personality disorder and just actually think critically what's happening here. So if people are not responding to you, it's maybe they didn't see your email, or maybe they don't like your pitch and they don't want to talk to you again. Why aren't they responding? You can kind of think critically about what happened. Sure. So the best thing to do before you start raising is just to have your company in order. And so if you can try and get it done within 3 months, you want to time your fundraise to where you will have, say, positive seasonality, or, where the growth numbers will be going higher. So you don't want to be raising in a lull, because they'll kind of want to have maybe some updates from you over time. And if every week, your numbers are going down, it doesn't look good. But if you're at like that best time of the year and your numbers are going up, like, oh, we just did this, and we just signed up this other Macy's or whatever. You've got positive news all the time.
Right.
It sounds like things are happening, right?
Right.
So in terms of timing around, plan for when is the best time for you to start. Because raising is one of those things where if you start it, you need to finish it. Like I tell people, don't put the date on your front of your pitch deck, because it just reminds people how long you've been raising, right?
Right.
You don't want people to think about that. You want to think, Dave's just started raising, and
yeah, makes sense.
You're only raising 100K, okay, which, like for normal people is a lot of money, but in startup land, it's not a big deal, right? Yeah, you can start building relationships with people before you need their money, so they know you, right? So you could start out, hey, I'm going to be raising soon. I'd like some advice, right? Or, I don't know, just bullshit example, Gary Vaynerchuk, apparently he's great at social media, and he does angel investing. So you reach out to Gary and you're like, hey, I'm building a sports brand. I'm trying to figure out my Instagram strategy better. I will be raising soon, but I'd love to get some advice from you. I mean, he may or may not talk to you, I don't know, but do you know what I mean? Like you can establish a relationship with people, and then maybe they might say, are you raising? Like, I might be interested, Right, yeah. So, like Mark Suster has this thing, which I wish I invented, called dots, not lines, right? You've got an XY axis, and every single dot forms a line of fit over time, right? And every interaction you have with someone creates another dot. And if that's going up and towards the right, you feel congruent, right, with them, and they'll be more happy to give you money.
Correct.
So like $100 million checks don't just happen overnight, right? People get to know people, and they'll track your company, and then, they might actually just write a check overnight, but it didn't, So Front Series B, I think it was, she spent, 4 years building relationships with VCs and got her round done in 3 weeks. Wow. And so she specifically said on a panel, right? Wow. The round was not done in 3 weeks, right? It was done in 4 years.
Of course.
They got to know her, right? And they got to the point where they were asking her, hey, do you want to take money, right?
Wow.
And so when she said, yes, let's take money, it was just a matter of, doing the basic due diligence and just writing the check, right? But they had known her, they tracked her, they knew what her numbers were over a period of time, so they were comfortable. And so, you should think about building relationships where you can. Okay, the reality about angel investing is the people you are most likely to get money from are the people that you have some sort of relationship with already.
Right.
So just think critically, like, who is anyone rich that I know? Because in America, you have to be an accredited investor in order to be able to invest in the first place. Although I think it's changed a bit on the Jobs Act. I'm not American, so I don't know all the rules. So just make sure the people who you can raise can invest can actually invest in you under the regulation in America. But think critically, like who is anyone that you know that doesn't think you're a total dick, and hit them up for money, right? Because it's people who have some sort of relationship with you that are most likely to invest. So people you've worked with, whatever. Right. Just to put it into perspective, 100K. The best outcome is to have someone who is smart money, who is within your industry, knows a lot, can add value, will help you increase your valuation the next round. Exactly. Ideally smart money. And then on the other side, you've got dumb money, right? Who, in the worst case scenario, is stupid, doesn't know it, and wants to micromanage you. Right. And those people do exist. So it's better to have someone dumb who knows that they're dumb and knows that it's basically charity and they might not see their money again. Right. And if you email them, sure, they'll respond to you, but you probably won't because they can't offer any value, but at least they'll leave you alone. Right. If you got someone who's really smart and is going to push you, that's probably fine, right? Because at least when you're one man and his dog right now, at least someone cares, right? So it's probably not the worst thing.
It's fine, it's fine.
Yeah. So you've got dumb and painful, and then you've got the smart money. And on the other axis you want to think about is writing small checks and writing big checks. So for a 100K round, the ideal scenario is probably one person with a 100K check who's really valuable to you. Exactly. Or do you know what, maybe two people or possibly even three, you know, who add a lot of value if it's basically free labor as well, right? Especially if they've got networks and stuff. Yeah. But you don't really want to have more than maybe 5 people or something, because then the cap table ends up getting really long and investors don't really like that. If you end up having a ton of people, sometimes what you do is you create SPVs, which are not that expensive. And so there ends up being one line item on this cap table. But behind that company, there's a bunch of other people. It's probably not really worthwhile doing for 100K, but just FYI, just telling you some things that you can do. Okay. You ideally don't want to have lots of people, but you know, what most people don't really talk about is the reality of startup life, which is you just fucking do what you have to do because that's what you have to do. And that's called the real world, right? Exactly. So, you know, if you get 40 people, God, let me think of my maths. You know, you get one person give you 100K, right? You get 5 people to give you 20K, you get there. You can theoretically get 100 people to give you 1K, which is pretty much the ballpark of anyone, and you still get there. Yes, now, that's 100 people is ideally not what you want, brain damage. But you still get there, right? Yes. Yeah. So just set a floor on how much you're willing to accept, right? I mean, typically you'd want to have 25K checks, but if you have to do 5K, maybe set the floor at 5. That's what you do. Right. And you just need 20 people to give you 5K and you get it done. That's it. So you can, maybe you get a couple of people doing 5K checks and you get someone to give you a 25K check or something. It depends. But again, like, I'm just saying this because there's always a way to get your round done. Correct. All right. So that's, the positive, like, if you work hard, you can make it happen type thing. Focus on people that you know. If once you get someone to invest, try and get introductions to get their friends to come in because it's social proof as well. Right. Most people are not like this, but you might find some people who are like, can I get a sweeter deal if I bring intros in? Ideally you don't want to, but again, like, you do what you have to if you need to. Yeah. So you can have a side letter or something that they get extra shares or warrants or options or something in it. So you can incentivize people to try and help it, but really what you want to leverage on is pride or goodwill, right? The moment you start spending incentivizing people with money, you go down a dark path. Right. So that I think there is this famous example of a nursery who started fining parents for turning up late, $25, $50, and everyone just started leaving their children late because it was still cheap daycare. And that the president had consent that they just pay a fine, that's fine. Whereas when it was about shame, that some underpaid au pair or whatever had to stay because some little Johnny wasn't picked up on time. They feel really bad about it, and there's a stigma.
Right.
And that's far more powerful than a financial incentive,
Interesting, yeah.
So I don't know if that necessarily will apply to Instagram influencers, because these days most of them want to make money, at least in America. So you probably need to pay them, but where you can leverage that with people to help you, goodwill and living vicariously and seeing that they've helped you is really powerful. The most important thing with that, though, is you need to email them or send them a thank you letter and tell them how valuable it was. So if someone makes an introduction to whatever Instagram influencer, after you've talked to that influencer and something's happened, send that person who made an intro an email and say, hey, Jim, thanks so much for introducing me to Toby. He helped us out dramatically, and I'm so thankful for making that happen for me, or some shit like that.
Right.
And it makes people much more likely to want to help you again in the future.
Absolutely.
So anyway, raising, so 100K can do it. In terms of deal structuring, what's pretty typical is you're going to do some kind of convertible structure as opposed to what we call a priced round. The differences these days in terms of time and cost are not that significant. You can do something called a series seed round, which are relatively affordable, the mainly sort of template documents, which is technically a priced round, but most people should be okay with some sort of convertible note.
Right.
So you've got a couple of options. You have this KISS note from 500 Startups, which I don't think anyone really uses. You have safe notes, which are pre and post money versions. And then you have convertible notes, right? So ignore KISS notes. Don't do a post safe note, which is a new one, because they're investor friendly. The pre-money note, the old one, was very very founder friendly. People kind of think that YCOM is becoming more of an investor, and so the way they're structuring their agreements is going to be more favorable to investors. So if you do a safe, don't do the new one, do the pre-money one.
Okay.
Benefit of that is you can literally just download off the website. You fill in like 7 things, and that's it. Just make sure you fill it in properly. Okay. So you can do that. A general recommendation is to do a convertible note. Convertible notes can get very complicated, but if you know what you're doing, you can have a lot more control over what the terms are and remove anything else that you don't really want. The safe notes are also very, as some Americans write, Californian. So you may, if you're raising outside of California, then people would just be like, yeah, we don't do safe notes, or we don't really understand them. But generally, I think convertible notes are the best if you just write them properly, because you have a lot more control over it. But again, like the pre-money safe is very founder friendly. It's just a question of whether or not investors will actually sign them. So you'll find certain types of investor, if they're more sophisticated, who will not do convertible notes because they don't really know how much they own. Whereas if you do a priced round, they're like, fine, I know how much I own. So Nikesh Arora, who was the former president of SoftBank, we were talking to him to do an investment. He just emailed, I don't do convertible notes. I don't know how much I own. I'm only going to do a price round. That was just like one line email.
Okay.
So, that's like a real example of someone just being like, don't do it.
Right.
He's obviously, incredibly wealthy and
a little more advanced.
But again, if you're dealing at the earlier stage, less sophisticated people that may not ask too many questions, or it really depends on who you're talking to, right?
Yeah. Right.
So you'll find some cases of people who are happy to do a convertible note, and some people who won't, and only do a priced round. You don't want to be in a situation where for one round you're doing a priced round, a convertible note, and a safe at the same time. Yeah. You just want to pick one, and just keep things simple, because your next round, assuming you're still alive, you need to convert that shit, and people don't like complicated.
Right.
So try and keep the terms relatively simple. So 100K. Okay, it's for most people. It's a pretty small round, right? So the complexity in it doesn't need to be such a big deal because it's just not that much money.
Right.
When you're getting to the point where you're talking millions, then people will start getting finicky about terms.
Right.
The economics and controls are basically the two categories that you have. Economics being like your valuations, control terms being around board seats, information rights, pro rata rights, liquidation preferences, preference shares, all these different kind of fun things.
Yeah.
You don't really need to deal with all that really for at least the purpose of this round. My general recommendation if you plan on keep on fundraising is to study what you need to study at the stage where you're at. Don't go learning everything about everything because you don't need to know it, but make sure that you understand the basics of what you're doing so that when it comes to the next round, you can keep on building on that knowledge and not be a total noob.
Right.
Because you might suddenly then just get totally overwhelmed by how much you need to know in order to kind of do things. And sure, there are advisors and stuff around, but it's good for you to actually understand what you're doing. And also to be taken seriously. So you don't need to understand, what full ratchets are and the anti-dilution things right now. You need to understand the different kinds of, say, convertible note structures and the benefits of each one and what's included in them. So, if you decide that you want to do a pre-money safe note, I don't have a blog on this. I did blogs on the post-money note, but I'm sure there's someone who has, because I've read it, who's got like a line-by-line normal person explanation of the pre-money safe note.
Right.
And if you know legal agreements, it's not that complicated to read, but someone has done the hard work for you to explain it. So understand the agreement, don't just sign it.
Okay.
My general recommendation as well is to use lawyers. Yes, they cost money, but they don't have to cost a ton. Because founders fuck things up. And if you do something really stupid, you're going to regret it. So I've got a friend in Thailand, the example I always do, who wrote the definition of the discount rate wrong and ended up giving the investors an 80% discount rate.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because he didn't read it the right way.
Oh my God.
So basically the way that, like in the safe note is written, it's actually technically 1 minus the discount rate. So they pay 80% of the price. And so he wrote it that they pay 20% of the price because that's what he thought the discount rate is.
Wow.
And it's actually not, he knew enough to think he knew what he was doing, but he didn't know enough to do it properly.
You're right.
So that's the problem. I could easily see people doing it, but be very careful about saving money on your financing rounds because you don't want to lose your company, right?
No.
So, doing a convertible note, I had this one founder in LA who was emailing me, and he got a couple of quotes, which I can share actually, for the cost of doing convertible notes, setting up his ESOPs, setting up the incorporation properly. And you're talking something about $2,500 to get a quality VC-focused lawyer to do a convertible note, which is still money. But if you're kind of thinking like, is life really worth the risk?
Right.
You just, you can decide, right?
It makes sense. It makes sense.
So get proper advice. You need someone who actually does VC law, not Uncle Bob who sells property. So people who actually know what they're talking about.
Right.
What else do we have here? So, okay, I can keep talking, but do you have any specific questions?
Yeah, actually, I was listening to your blog about how to source or how to get to those people that have the money, because I do have, a pretty decent network of contacts as far as people that have money or people that know people that have money. So I've been doing that. I've been reaching out to those people ongoing, and it's an ongoing thing, as you know. It never stops. It's 24/7. You always have multiple irons in the fire, as they say, contacting this person, following up with that person, blah, blah, blah. So that's great, but as you mentioned, it's always better to have like a direct line of communication with these people if you can, or to get a referral. If someone who you're trying to target, if there's someone that that knows that person, it's always more beneficial than just cold calling or cold emailing a person that you think may be able to invest. They don't want to hear from you. They want to hear from someone who they know that knows you. It says, hey, this company I know looking to raise money, you may want to talk to him. That's always much more, as you know, as you pointed out correctly, that's much more beneficial and much more apt to be successful than just the cold email. So I'm wondering if there's creative ways, excuse me, for me to kind of, I know LinkedIn is out there, but is there other ways to kind of creatively get to these people that you know have money that you may not know who they are per se personally, but you may somehow find a creative way to kind of indirectly kind of communicate with them so that it's more of a warmer kind of introduction as opposed to kind of a cold call. If there's creative kind of strategies to do that.
Typically, there's no need to do fancy shit. You don't need to create like a specific website for people or, you know, what the normal boring things just basically work, right?
Okay.
So like say, you know, you want to know VCs. Well, if you stalk their blog and leave comments, which are smart or interesting, then they'll interact with you, right? I know a number of people who have gotten to know journalists or investors by, you know, tweeting them, Twitter, right?
Right.
Although Twitter is a very American thing, so I think that works. It doesn't really work as much in other places in the world. You know, I got to make friends with a VC in Silicon Valley. He does marketplaces because I was reading his blog about marketplaces, and I emailed him and asked him some questions, and we got on.
Right.
You know, because he just had similar interests. So that obviously takes a bit of time to build up, and you need to have some sort of knowledge in order to be useful, and not sycophantically, because most, you know, investors don't really give a shit about you until they do, realistically, right?
Right.
Some investors are a lot more approachable than others. I think Mark Cuban's invested in 3 or 4 startups by people who just cold emailed him.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. One of my friends is one of those people.
Wow.
Who's in LA, Cyberdust. And what he told me is the key thing is Mark loves people who respond really fucking fast on email. Wow. We're just like on the ball all the time. And so he just said like, you know, he always responded super fast to him and he liked it and whatever, it goes from there. So you can be surprised by some people. And I think Mark Cuban is one of those really weird ones who somehow actually responds to emails, despite the fact he gets 1 billion of them a day.
I was gonna say, it's crazy.
It's really weird. But there are then going to be people who are just, I'm famous, Andreessen Horowitz and Sequoia, blah, blah, who are just not going to respond to your email, all right, unless you're doing something really interesting. Right. Angel investors generally are approachable, but by now, everyone has sort of adopted the mentality that if you're not smart enough to get an introduction, you're not a smart entrepreneur. So therefore you can't do business. So it's kind of become this thing, which is like a stupidity test. If you can't get an introduction, you're not smart, which I know if a lot of people don't have networks is not really fair, but it's just what it's become now.
All right. Okay.
So it's just something worth bearing in mind. So you have Crunchbase.
Sure.
So you can look at Crunchbase to see what deals people have invested in. Some people invest in anything, but you'll find people who are, okay, because you're doing shoes, right? Which is not a normal thing.
No.
Right? So software, whatever, people invest in pretty much fucking anything.
Yeah.
So if you're doing hardware, basically, you want to find people who've invested in your space before.
Right, exactly.
Because they'll get it and they'll also be able to add more value. Whereas normal investors will be kind of like, do I want to build a brand? You know, manufacturing shit, like excess inventory, blah, blah, you know, it sounds like a pain, but they'll find people who've been in the industry or marketing or something that will like this.
So I've uncovered a bunch of these angel groups down here in South Florida or in my surrounding areas. Like there's a little collection of people that kind of congregate together and they hear pitches and what have you, and they have a website. They say, you know, upload your business plan or upload your deck or this and that. And I've heard you say before, like most of the time, that stuff is just kind of like, you know, it's a bunch of nonsense. It's a waste of time. Don't waste your time uploading all these documents to these quote unquote angel or VC investor websites because usually they don't look at it.
They'll pretty more of them.
So I'm wondering if I should not waste my time with that. But as you're talking, I'm thinking a lot of these sites do post who they've invested in, some of the companies that they have in their portfolio or that their angels have invested in. So what if I go to those companies?
Yeah, go to the founders.
And go to the founders and say, hey, I'm a founder like you. You got funded by these guys. Can you make an introduction for me? Because you already got funded. Would that be something that may be feasible that could work?
Try and make friends with them first, so they want to. You don't just ask for the intro.
No, of course. I would.
But that's a perfect. So I've got a long ass blog on how do you get introductions to investors, called "How to Get Warm Introductions to Investors" or something. Okay. So it takes you through basically everything. And I've got another blog of how do you cold email investors, because it can sometimes work, but it's not the best thing to do.
But what's your position, real quick, on the whole idea of? I think I understood correctly. What's your position on, like, going through that process of kind of applying for the ability to pitch to these websites? Do you think it's
do what you need to do?
Okay, all right.
At some point, you just go fuck it, do it. So the best situation though is whatever Florida Investor Group or something. I don't know.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. So type that into LinkedIn and try and reach out to people who are there.
Right.
So my friend is in the, what is the MBA in London called? London Business School. So the London Business School have got an angel group, and everyone in there, it's like they could fill up a little auditorium there. Right. Everyone's kind of relatively successful in what it is that they do. Right. But let's face it, most people don't have a fucking clue about startups and what's worthwhile investing in.
Right.
So not saying they're not smart, they just haven't put in the time, right? Right. So there's only like 3 people or something in the group who are influencers, and then there's like the main guy who just like everyone pays attention to. So you just need to get one of the big guys on board, and then what you want to do is get one of the guys to introduce the deal to the club.
Right.
And he needs to be your cheerleader.
Right.
And ideally make sure he's one of the people who led the deals before that everyone listens to.
Right, yeah.
Because this reality is most investors don't have a fucking clue. So if they see the leader doing it, then everyone just gives,
follow through.
Sure. Invest with John because John's doing it.
Exactly, right, exactly.
So there's always ringleaders. So you just need to figure out who they are.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. So that's the dynamic. I don't have a huge experience of investor clubs, but that's what I observed.
Okay.
So they're not necessarily they're not necessarily going to be your top pick, but do you know what? Money's money.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't bother my ass dealing with crowd. You could try crowdfunding. The problem is it costs an average $100,000 just to do a proper crowdfunding, which is the ironic thing. So a lot of people raise money in order to do crowdfunding.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's totally crazy.
It's true.
They don't bring all the money to you. You've got to bring the money to the website, which is So you could consider that. It's just also just a fuckload of work.
Yes.
So if you can just get some angel investors to turn over some checks, that's probably your ideal scenario. And so yes, founders are a great example.
Okay.
Of people to check out. So if you find names of these groups or whatever you want to go, don't just be lazy and upload on the website. You'll find someone who works the company on LinkedIn. Exactly. And use that to reach out to them. And so you can find people and then use sites like Email Hunter or something, Voila Norbert, and find their emails as well.
Right.
So yeah, you can basically, LinkedIn is going to be your friend. Yeah. You want to ideally, also one thing to bear in mind is that fundraising takes up a lot of fucking work. So, you talk to me and it's like an hour conversation. I'm like, maybe, and let's chat again. That's like another hour, but not really that interested. You just wasted 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to do this to 100 people?
Exactly, yeah.
And they expect you to run your business at the same time, and you don't have co-founders, so you need to work smartly. Exactly. So what you want to do before you start raising, maybe start building relationships with, people who you think are potential good prospects in the meantime, but do your groundwork to figure out what investors you think you want to have and prioritize them into like grade A, grade B, grade C. Maybe start out with 2 or 3 grade C ones to practice your pitch.
Right. Right.
Because your pitch is going to suck at the start, right? And you'll figure out what lands, what doesn't, and get more comfortable with it. And then eventually you end up sounding like a fucking parrot, just like, it just comes out and you know the answers to all the questions. And
exactly.
Ideally you like to get there faster than as you can, but I know it just takes time.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you're actually ready to go boom, boom, you want to do your round as quickly as possible because people want to see social signals which are positive. Because if it looks like, you email them every week and you're 25K, 50K, 75K, right? You're almost there. It's accelerated, right? It looks like the round's going to happen. Whereas if you kind of email someone and then email 5 people the next week and then, organize a meeting the week after, it's just sort of dragging along, right? And it's not exciting. Right. So when you are going to do it, make sure you have that list. Maybe even have another call. So, name of the investor, maybe email, phone number, whatever it is required. And you can have a column of who's going to make an introduction to you, to them, for you. And then reach out to those people all on the same day, ideally, and try and get them to make the introductions at the same time so that you stagger your race, right? So you want people kind of all going at the same. So it's like race horses all going at the same start.
Right.
And so one thing may not matter so much with angel investors, but at least with VCs, what you can do is when you start reaching out to people, you ask for a meeting in 3 weeks' time because the calendar is more likely to be open. And then therefore you can try and get all the investors in 1 week.
Right.
So that they're all at the same stage, right? So don't just be like, hey, I can meet tomorrow. But like, no, well, we're shipping a new product or something. We're going to be starting around in 3 weeks once we're prepared or something. But do it in advance so to make sure that you can get into people's calendar and kind of at the same time. Right. Because really the best way to get a better valuation is to have more term sheets.
Got it.
So that kind of applies a bit more for kind of VC fundraising, but there's no reason you can't really apply the same logic with angel investors.
For sure.
So make sure you just prepare before you start to give you the best possible chance of just making it sound like everyone's talking about you. And ideally kind of time it for some positive updates that you can send to people.
I think, it makes sense. That makes sense. Look, I think there's a lot of momentum. I mean, I'm not going to go into specifics, but there is momentum with my brand right now. I think now is a good time to go out and do my dog and pony show to people to kind of give them all this good news, quote unquote, that's happening on the brand to get them excited about what's happening now, then the vision for what can happen in the future. So I'm painting that picture of what we've done, where we're at, and what the future holds. That whole progression that people want to see, what's the big exit and this and that, and it's a huge market, billions of dollars, blah, 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 all that stuff. So I think I have a very compelling story to share with somebody, just getting in front of that person or persons to share it. That's the challenge I have, is getting in front of those people to do my pitch. So everything we're talking about is very good for me as far as giving me ideas and how to go out there and find new people and more people to be able to pitch to, and hopefully find 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, like you mentioned, that'll pull the trigger and say, hey, we believe in it and let's go. So
yeah, it's more advantageous to have a short quality list, but the reality is you're probably going to need to talk to 100 people.
Oh, for sure.
So just have that larger list together and put in the work before you start.
Yep.
And it's just going to be a slog, right? So create template emails, So if you want an introduction, I've got blogs and all of this stuff, is you need to create a template forwardable email, which you customize for each person. So your process is going to be, hey, Alex, I see that you know Roloff both at Sequoia or Gary Vaynerchuk, whoever, angel investor. I know whatever, Gary's invested in, sneaker companies before. We're building, this awesome, new brand for, beach fashion or whatever the fuck it is. We're currently distributed Macy's and people like whatever are following us.
Right.
Whatever. I know he's invested in areas like this before. Attaches the pitch deck. Do you think he would be interested? And just see if they'll be like, yeah, okay. Because what you want to find out is, does Alex actually know Roloff and Gary or not? It could be that, I said hi to Gary in the toilet at some event, which people do, by the way. It's really awkward. when I was a VC, I'd have people like pitching me when I'm taking a piss, and it's just like, dude, this is just
like, really, bro? Really?
But it happens to a lot of people because everyone gets desperate, right? Like it's like, oh, there's like a VC, I need a pitch, right?
If I get you a loan, I don't care where it is. If it's a bathroom, wherever it is, if I get you a loan, I'll talk to you.
Yeah. Like, Usher, the singer, when he thought there was a producer or something around, he'd start singing just out loud in the toilet.
Oh, really?
In the hope that someone would listen to him. Yeah.
That's funny.
It's just like, the hustle.
Yeah, that's it. The hustle, that's it.
Yeah, like Samantha Mumba, who was like a one-hit wonder in the 90s or something. Uh-huh. She hustled her way into the VIP room of a nightclub and met a producer, and that's how she got her break.
Wow.
Anyway, like it's just hustle, right?
Yeah.
So you're just going to need to figure out how to get in with people.
Creativity.
So you're going to ask Alex, does he actually know this person or not? Okay. Because if I met him in the toilet, the Gary doesn't actually know me, and so it's actually a shit introduction. It's almost better just a cold email. If you're like, yeah, sure, I'm friends with Gary, we go back a long time or whatever, or we used to work together, fine. Just make sure that people are in the best. So ask Alex, are you best placed to make an introduction or not?
Right.
It's like, get a yes or no. If yes, if you don't have my email already, ask for that. And then you say, dear Alex, thanks a lot for offering to introduce us to Gary. As mentioned, Sandviper is a whatever, and then you have like a list of like your key achievements or something like short.
Yep.
Attached as would love to have an introduction to Alex. All right, but so most of that is going to be exactly the same, but at the top, you're going to say why you want an introduction to Gary. I know Gary invested in 1, 2, 3. And said on whatever podcast that he really loves sneaker companies or something. I thought this would be a great fit to him. So don't make it seem like you're spamming everyone.
Right.
But so do a little bit of research on every single investor, and ideally find something that's not on the website to make it look like you actually, like, you really want me.
Yeah.
So that kind of effort it'll go a long way.
Makes perfect sense. Get their attention somehow. Get their attention somehow. Some kind of nugget that you can offer. They like, oh, wait a minute, he's actually done his research. He's actually learned something about it. He actually wants me
to spamming everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, makes sense.
So there's this like list of angel investors in Israel, which you can find on Google, and it explicitly says in there, if you spam everyone, you will be blacklisted by all the investors, because there's retards who just copy and paste the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's everybody.
Investors, we were fundraising. Like, how do you think that goes down? Like, not very well.
Not very well. Yeah, exactly. Not very smart.
So yeah, you want to have like that template email, which is affordable email introduction.
Right.
Because then you don't have to write the same sodding thing 100 times. You just need to do a little bit of research on each investor, why it is you want to invest in them, right. And then just edit that template, send it to Alex, and ask for him to an intro. Because if you ask me, hey, Gary, can you introduce me to him? I'm like, oh, fuck, what does Sandviper do? How do I explain it? And so you lose control of the narrative, right?
Right.
So always spoon feed everyone.
Right.
Don't let people do thinking. So like in your pitch deck, you want to spell out everything so that people, can understand it, right? Because one of the biggest problems that people do is they're so deep in the startup that they assume everyone knows everything about their baby because it's their baby. And the fact that no one fucking knows anything about what you do, I've had pitch decks where...
It's true.
Yeah. I've had pitch decks where I've read them and I literally don't even know what the startup does. Like, no shit.
The whole deck?
Yeah, I just literally don't know what they do.
Wow.
So it's real. So like what I do is, basically the second slide on the deck after the cover is, this is what we do in a sentence. Sandviper makes, sneakers so people can, what the athletes can run on the beach, right? Like literally just make it really freaking clear.
In bold print, right?
Yeah, just spell it out, spoil the surprise. And then from there, you set up, here's the industry, here's the problem in the industry, here's the problem in our sector. This is the specific problem we're solving for our customers. If you design something better, what would it look like? Our shoe, meet our team. here's how our product works, here's how we're getting customers, here's how we make money, here's how big the market is.
Yep.
Here's how we're going to expand into more verticals over time to make the market bigger. Here's how much money I want. And then the 3 things that you want to remember at the end. But you take them on a journey and you prove everything, but spell everything out so that people get it, right? Like never ever write problem on the head of your slide, okay? It's because everyone reads this fucking Sequoia outline and they copy it, but they didn't realize it's just a checklist. It's not actually a pitch deck template. Okay. You want to write getting sand in your shoe is a pain in the ass, right?
Right.
Like, so you just say what you want to say, like a story, But anyway, yeah. So like getting in meetings with people is just something you just need to hustle everywhere you can. It's like, hey, Dad, do you know people with money? Like wherever it is.
That's it.
Look for startups that you like in whatever the hardware kind of area or whatever fashion. It's probably a better way of thinking of it. And say, who funded those guys? Right. Figure out who their investors are.
Right.
And then maybe reach out to the founder and say, hey, I really like your brand. I'd love to ask you a couple of questions about how you thought about your logo or some shit like that. Get them on the phone and be like, oh, I saw you raise money from those 3 guys. What do you think of them? Oh, yeah. So here's what I do. Do you think those guys would be interested?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Right.
So whatever you need to do, you just basically need to hustle your way in. And also, once you get in the room, right, firstly, how you get in the room matters, okay? Because let's just think of 2 examples. If I meet you on Tinder, as far as I'm aware, you could be a 600-pound guy called Chuck who lives in our basement, right? Like, I don't fucking know. But let's say your mum and some chick's mum are at church group together. And, the women are talking. Is like, oh, my daughter Mary Sue is single. He goes, oh, and David's single too. You guys should meet. And then your mum's like, you're going on a date with Mary Sue. Don't fuck it up, right? Mary Sue is probably not going to murder you, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing. If you get a meeting with me and I've been into your Mary Sue or whatever, I'm like, this guy's probably not going to take off his shirt and wave it around in the air, Right. So how you get in the room matters. And then what you do in the room matters. If you're having a bad day, if you're feeling ill, cancel the meeting. So you want to go in like the motherfucking Energizer Bunny. And if you need to take coke or amphetamines to make that happen, whatever it takes.
That's it.
And I know people who do that for meetings. And it's like, whatever it takes, you need to make a big impression.
Right.
Be the Energizer Bunny. The people who are just like, awesome, I love my company, are the people who make it happen.
Exactly.
So you need to be like motherfucking Energizer Bunny.
That's it.
Actually, you sell something, so it might be a bit expensive. I don't know what the cogs are on your shoes, but you could always, for people who you think are good prospects, send them a pair of shoes and say, these are our shoes. Do you want to invest?
That's what I've been doing, actually.
Have you really? Okay.
I've done that. I've actually done that. I've been sending care packages with a little note. I've been doing that. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I have.
Also, by the way, that's a potential marketing strategy for YouTube. I don't know if you've been doing that already, but Birchbox sort of invented this beauty box concept. Problem is, when you kind of invent something or you popularize it, no one's searching for it in Google. Right? So there's no SEO really. There's no SEM that you can do. So you need to come up with creative ways to acquire customers.
Right.
So what the girls did was they basically invented this thing called unboxing. So there are all of these beauty bloggers on YouTube with huge followings, and they would send them the beauty box for free. And then the girls, because they need to create this inane content which girls seem to like, would be like, okay, girls, so I'm going to try this new service, and we've got this box, and I'm going to open the box, and here are the little products and shit, right?
Yeah.
So there's no, there's not like the most, there's one of the more obvious things in the world, but, there are all sorts of bloggers, whatever, YouTubers online who need ideas for content.
Right.
And, say they're in the lifestyle sector or they're personal trainers, they can make a video on trying out a new pair of sneakers. Or, here are my 5 tips about how you run on the beach. And like, you could be one of them.
Right.
So that's another thing you could be doing is YouTube.
Okay.
Just as an idea when we talk about having products. But yeah, I mean, one of the good things about, well, being a youth company is always think about what do I have to work with? What are my assets? And then how can you leverage them?
Right.
So maybe you're not a SaaS company, but you've actually got a product that people can touch. Interesting.
Exactly.
What can I do with that? So yeah, just always just figure out whatever your strengths are and try and capitalize them. But anyway, so do you have any more questions about the raising?
No, we covered a lot. I think it's very been very informative, and I got a lot of notes. Of course, I'll go back and watch this again to kind of capture what I missed. But no, I think you gave me a lot of nuggets that I didn't contemplate before, and I'm going to utilize, and hopefully will be successful. Helping me be successful in my race. So I thank you for that. And I'd love to be able to circle back with you maybe at some point and kind of give you an update on my progress and my status, our progress, should I say.
Yeah.
I'll let you know how we're doing, and, kind of maybe just kind of pick it up from there. But it's been great. I appreciate all your insights and your feedback, and it's been great.
Thanks a lot, David. Okay, have a fab day.
You too. Take care.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.